Pick up the Zombie Killer Tea. A link is down below.
I've just taken a 3-hour-long boat ride from Hamburg to the island of Heligoland. Heligoland is an island that is both rich with history and lore. In fact, so much so that it went on to inspire The Darkest Shore. When you get to Heligoland, you'll notice this place immediately feels like The Darkest Shore. I mean, you climb up several hills and then you find yourselves on the cliffs of the islands, which are painted in a beautiful red stone. And it goes even further than just the appearance. A lot of the legends from this island are found in-game. For example, much of the Easter egg revolves around Nerthus, the pagan god of fertility who was worshipped by the Frisian people. Scholars will say that reportedly Nerthus is from the island of Heligoland, or she lives here. There's said to be a statue of Nerthus somewhere on this island, and this is what we see in-game. When we're completing the Easter egg, we find that there is a statue of Nerthus, and it's the focal point of the Easter egg. She's the goddess of fertility, and what do we do in-game? We find 3 of her children on the island. In addition to that, several of the steps reflect Nerthus as well as her appearance. It's said in legend that she wears a white veil over herself made of cloth, and the statue has a white veil. She's also in a secluded grove, much like we see in game. The legends also get a little bit gruesome. It's said that there are several slaves that are taken below into her grove and then sacrificed before her in her pool. Now in game, when we're completing the Easter egg, it's not necessarily a pool, but a pool of blood. We see blood start to rise from the floor, and this is all being mirrored from both legend and Easter egg as we play The Darkest Shore. Once we complete the Easter egg, we start to move on to some of the wartime history of this island. In fact, during the early days of the war, didn't really see much action. The Germans had set up a naval base here, however, because of the power of the Luftwaffe, they didn't really use this place that often, and the British deemed it insignificant. As the war went on towards the final chapter, it actually received a serious air raid. On April 18th and April 19th, 1945, the British Royal Air Force dropped 7,000 bombs on this island, destroying much of it. A lot of it was lost to the sea. Some of these cliff sides were destroyed, and the island was deemed inhabitable. In fact, the people who were living here had to be evacuated from the island. Since then, people have returned to the island, and now about 1,500 residents live on Heligoland. But we actually see a lot of this in-game. So when we complete the Easter egg and we see our characters escaping the island and they call that air raid on it and those bombs are being dropped, according to the game's legends, the bombing of Heligoland that happened April 18th and April 19th, 1945 was triggered by our characters. What Sledgehammer has done here, where they've infused real-life history with the legends and lores of this island and then twisted it to fit their own narrative and add a little bit of spice to it, is one of my favorite parts of the zombie storyline, because we can take places and just make things up, but it's fun when you can go to an actual place and learn about the history that we're seeing reflected in our games, and it adds a new level of depth to the narrative and the storytelling. A lot of people talk about The Darkest Shore being a very bland map without much going on, but if you ask me, once you dig under the surface, there is so much more to the map that people overlook. And when you go to a place like the real-life Darkest Shore and you look out onto these beautiful red cliffs, you can't help but feel like you're actually there in the game. And for this reason, the real-life Darkest Shore might be one of my favorite places we've visited so far.